They do hard money lending, and they've done all sorts of other things. I couldn't even list it all off. Definitely one of the most successful real estate investors I've ever met. You guys can really learn a lot from them, and they're doing all sorts of cool things. So really, really excited to have them here tonight. But I want to start things off by giving a couple of minutes to Mike. So Mike is actually a very close friend of mine. We've known each other for about 3 years. And when I was brand new to real estate investing, I think Mike was the second real estate investor I ever met. He was on the Bigger Pockets podcast. How many of you listened to that? Almost everyone. So Mike O'Connor, he was on the Bigger Pockets podcast. He's here with his partner, Matt Wood. They own a bunch of apartment complexes together. He's an agent. They've done all sorts of things, flips. And they started a property management company, and it has absolutely exploded. And I'm not going to steal his thunder, but Mike is sponsoring this tonight with his company, and they do a great job. Mike is one of the most accomplished individuals I've ever met, especially for being at such a young age. So I couldn't say enough about him. I've learned a lot from Mike. It's actually because of Mike that I went and got my real estate license myself. So, I mean, he gives you actionable stuff that, you know, can really change your life. So I'm always going to be grateful for him. Great friend. Really glad to have him here. And Mike's done 2 things for us tonight. Well, 3 actually. He covered the bar tab, which is really nice. We've got free koozies to keep your drinks cold here and beyond when you're out in the world living your everyday life, drinking other alcoholic beverages. And then the third thing is he's going to be talking for a couple minutes, so maybe he'll give you all some golden nuggets of information. So without further ado, Mike O'Connor.
Matt's here as well, my partner. Appreciate that, Vince. That's a high bar to set. A lot of those words are too kind. Hope you guys are enjoying the cocktails. I see a lot of beers, no koozies, so we've got probably 200 over there. Make sure you take them, stuff in pockets, give them to your friends. I'm Mike O'Connor. This is my business partner, Matt. We're sponsoring tonight's event under our property management company, Perimeter Property Services. We go by PPS. You see our shirts in here. We got a handful of our team members over here too, so if you see them, they are with us. The real show is when Stan and Atticus get up here and start talking, but we want to take a couple minutes to tell you who we are, what our business is, and we'd love to chat with you guys afterwards and see if there's something we can do to potentially help you. Matt and I have been in real estate since 2013. We started off as buy and hold investors. We're about to be pale when Atticus and Stan talk, but at our peak we had around 170 units within the Atlanta area. We flipped homes. We've done a little bit of lending, a little bit of wholesaling, basically anything you can do within the real estate world we've had our fingers on. The thing that we're really focusing on right now is Perimeter Property Services. It's a management company that focuses on the Atlanta area, anywhere within basically a 45-minute radius of the city center. We do anything that's multifamily, we do single family. Once it gets outside that 45-minute radius, it's not something that we necessarily touch. We started really towards the end of 2017, and kind of as a pilot, just to see if it's something that we were interested in. It quickly became something that we liked, and at 2018, kind of one of our year goals was to make it, make it grow pretty quickly. At this point, we're a little over 400 doors right now. Again, between single family and multifamily, and we've kind of really enjoyed the ride. We've got some fantastic team members over here that Matt will give you a quick introduction to, and a little bit more background on the company.
Thanks. Can you guys hear me back there?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So just to echo what Mike said, we resonate a lot with everybody in this room because we started out as investors, so that's really where our mindset has been. Everything that we look at and view when it comes to our clients' properties, we're thinking, is this a property we would own or manage, and what would we do in a certain situation? And then hopefully you'll get a chance to meet some members of our team, which I'll just briefly say. This is Harrison, Brittany, Sally, Keeson, and Hillary, and there are a couple others that couldn't make it. But we would love to answer any questions you guys have just about property management in general, in the Atlanta area specifically. So we do try to keep that investor mindset. We've invested a lot in some softwares and tools that I think that people in this room are probably familiar with. We can tell you kind of some of the ones that we really like, the ones we've tried out, the ones that have worked, and the ones that haven't. And then we also really try to add a component where we're trying to benefit the tenant and think about the tenant's mindset and what they might be going through, because ultimately for an owner like you guys in the room or a landlord, you're making more money when your tenant is happy, when they're renewing their lease, when they're in a good spot financially. So we've partnered with some companies that work on financial literacy and things like that with the tenant. So again, like Mike said, we're still a very young company, but we've grown really, really quickly. We've got a fun staff, and we'd love to answer any questions. Hopefully you guys got a beer before the tab ran out, because I think it's about at its max. But
Sorry, it's closed now.
oh, it's closed.
We upped it to 350 though.
We did up it. So you guys are thirsty group here. But Stan and Atticus are the main event, so we will shut up unless we miss anything else.
Thanks for
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
One more quick round of applause for Mike and Matt and their team. So I think hopefully you guys would all agree it's not bad to have somebody else share their knowledge and for 5 minutes to get some free drinks. I think it's well worth it, and I think it makes sense for everybody. So that's why we decided to change that up. Not to mention not only Mike and Matt and their company, but also others. They're going to be giving us preferred rates on a lot of services. So that's going to be really great. Not to mention, you're going to have a list of vetted vendors that we've worked with before that we know are really good. So anything that you need that's real estate related, you're going to have a short list of people that you can call for anything you need. So that was really the idea behind that. So without further ado, Stan and Atticus.
So I'm Atticus. I exist. So Stan and I have known each other for a long time. I've been in Atlanta since 2002. I got started at Racetrack Petroleum on the real estate side, doing site selection acquisition in 2002. Had a quick stint at a real estate financial consulting company for about 6 months right out of college before I decided I was not cut out to sit in a cubicle for 12 hours a day, making the equivalent of $10 an hour. But yeah, so I was on the construction. I was on the real estate side. Stan was on the construction side. I probably enjoyed it more than you did, but certainly from a real estate education standpoint, it was fantastic. Just you were almost an entrepreneur, even just as a 23-year-old kid, dealing with really big deals and big numbers, and we were really left to our own devices. But after 2 years, 2.5 years, I guess. I don't know when you left. How long you were?
2000. I was 2004, and corporate America's great. I had a $100 million budget I was in charge of when I was left, and I was totally made a lot of mistakes on their dime, which I really suggest cover the bill. Because when you lose like $500,000 of somebody else's money and it's on a $1 million budget, you know, get
No, we wouldn't advocate losing $500,000 from your own money.
yeah, no, we're not advocating.
But yeah, so Stan left, I think probably a couple months before I did, but we had a good working relationship there. I left when they presented us with a non-compete agreement. I always had this idea that I knew I wanted to be in real estate development. I always had this sense that I wanted to go find a mentor to work under in the real estate world. Never found one, by the way. But yeah, when they gave me a non-compete agreement in 2005, I guess it was summer, I decided I think this would really make it difficult for me to go get another job with another developer, because I know if I were in the developer shoes, I wouldn't hire a guy who had a $5 billion a year company with this non-compete over him. And so I left that job 10 days before I got married. My father-in-law was thrilled, and decided to be a commercial broker, mostly on the land side. The impetus was I saw all these nice fat checks that the other brokers were getting when I was working at Racetrack. Thought I want to go do that because I wasn't getting paid nearly as much, which worked out well, except that this is fall 2005, and so just as I'm getting my career started and had my feet under me, set to make, I don't know, $600,000 in commissions in 2007. You guys probably know where this is going. My first son is born. I closed one deal that year with Stan prior. That was a $10,000 check, and the other 3 major apartment deals I was set to close within 4 weeks after my son was born, like boom, 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 all of them canceled for reasons that I had absolutely no control over, namely that underwriting criteria had changed, and I made $10,000 in 2007, and my wife had decided that she was going to stop working. So I was really desperate for something to do. I flipped one house previously, but that put me in, okay, I want to control my own destiny. I can't rely on these externalities. I know at this point in my career, I'm not cut out to work for anybody else. I had to laugh, like my old college buddies had said, well, you know, I need to go work for Bain or some investment bank until I can get fuck you money. And what I realized was, as a broker making no money, you didn't actually need the money to be able to tell people to fuck off. And that realization came as I was like standing in my boxer shorts at 11 o'clock making an espresso. But it was a valuable lesson that stuck with me. So long story short, I started looking at what was available to me that I could actually control. I had about $14,000 in the bank. I had a $70,000 line of credit. That was another big lesson. Go get a line of credit on your house while they're offering it. And I didn't have anything to do, so I started looking at houses inside the perimeter under $50,000. I'd done that search over the course of my career, and you know, come up with 50 to 100 burned out shacks in the worst parts of town. And that day in December of 2007, there were 1,200, and they were not burned out shacks, and they were everywhere. I said, holy shit, like, what's going on? So I called every listing agent around and said, what the hell's going on? And nobody could tell me. But they said, you know, we started getting flooded in October, and, you know, these are available. So I did the math. This was right around the same time that the Atlanta Housing Authority was shutting down all the big projects. So Bowen Homes, Buckhead Courts, Techwood, and giving these people vouchers to go out in the community. They had published their rents. So I knew, okay, well, I can go buy a house that's in reasonably good condition for $20,000. I'd gotten quotes. I didn't know anything about contracting at that point, but you know, I'd gotten quotes for $10,000 to $15,000. I said, okay, I can be all in for $35,000, and I know I can get these rents guaranteed by the government for around $1,000. What am I missing? And nobody could give me the answer. So I said, okay, well, we'll just try a couple and see. So I invested all of my savings and line of credit. I bought 3 that first year and convinced anybody that I could to come invest with me. I created 2 small funds, one with friends and family, one with former clients, and that was 2008. So I bought 16 houses in 2008, and Stan was working for a developer at the time. We created a little small vehicle called Atlanta Housing Fund. That'll show you how early we were. Like Atlanta Housing Fund LLC was actually available. They only own 2 houses right now. But yeah, so that was 2008, and by the end of that year, I guess you were pretty much done.
Yeah. That was when Lehman crashed, and I think Bear Stearns crashed, and I was collecting a check, but there was literally a couple weeks come through the office. I was pretty much the last one standing at the company. So I started just working on the side, doing my own thing, but, you know, drawing a little paycheck, knowing that it was going to go.
And I knew enough about Stan from our working history that we have very different personalities and very different strengths, and we complement each other very well. And that was something I could see pretty early on. And so when he left, what was that, late 08, I guess, early 09?
I collected a check into June of 09, but I was I forwarded the phone to my cell phone, and I was taking a laptop with me. My boss didn't know what was going on. He disappeared, and I was doing 2 jobs basically. It was great.
Yeah. So Stan started buying houses or deciding. Yeah.
When you started your fund, how many rejections and pushback were you getting? Because it you know, the floor was falling out from under people. I imagine some were enthusiastic about jumping in.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I was fortunate that you know, my mother could never say no to me, so I had that going for me. But I mean, we're talking like tiny dollars. So I don't remember how many no's, but there were certainly a ton.
Yeah. A lot of really bright real estate guys are like, you're crazy, and try to tell us every reason not to buy a single family house.
Well, and coming from the commercial brokerage world,
Yeah,
you know,
that was where our lead times were.
yeah, everybody was like, you're going to go do what? You're going to be cleaning toilets at 11 o'clock at night, and you know, as luck would have it, a lot of those same people were out of work in the next 2 years. unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, early on it was a shoestring budget more than anything. But Stan and I decided to start working together in early 2009. We wanted to get really creative on a name. So his name is Stan, my middle name is Bryant. We created something called Striant.
Well, we had an investor that started calling us Atticus, and we thought that sounded like stupid, like a bad dinosaur name. So that's where the name really came from.
There's a lot of branding that went into that.
Yeah, it was literally, it might not have been a half a cup of coffee went into that branding.
But yeah, the first game changer was, I guess maybe 2 or 3 months in, when we realized at that point is really when we started getting no's.
Yeah.
And we walked in, we sat in a bunch of bank offices. We said, this is a great idea. No, we can't do it. We have zero capital.
Yeah, but what it was is, I'd say 90% of those banks failed within the next 2 years. So they were having a meeting to have a meeting, hoping that they could come back into the market. So
They also wouldn't tell you that.
no, they didn't. No. Capital City.
But yeah, so the real game changer was after we got all these no's, Stan came to me one day and said, hey, I have these guys from the synagogue, right?
Yeah, it was my synagogue.
And they're willing to loan us money at 13% interest with 3 points and personal guarantees. And like that was all that was available. Otherwise you were just tapped out. And I typed in the spreadsheet the same formula like 100 times and said, yeah, it still works. So you gulp really hard, and we started buying. Very, very fortunately, shortly thereafter, we found a credit union that was Gwinnett Federal now. It's called Peach State, and they decided that they would be willing to refinance these houses if we brought them tranches of 10 at a time. So we bought 16 the first year. I don't know how many we bought the second year. These were all onesies and twosies. We eventually got to probably a little over 100 single-family rentals by 2010, and then we made the obvious next step of, we've done this single-family thing. Let's go buy an apartment building.
In Atticus' defense, I dragged him to do it, kicking and screaming to buy an apartment.
For those of you that don't know the story, not at all obvious. Apartments is a business disguised as real estate, and smaller apartments, if you have a full-time job, are probably about the hardest, most time-consuming thing you could do. If you don't have the capacity to hire a full-time manager, it's a real time suck, particularly if it's Class C, D, like low-income areas, high propensity of failure pay rates. So,
and at this time, just so we decided at that point, we had already decided we wanted to drive all our houses in a 20-minute trip. So we were heavily in the historic West End, Mosley Park. And you go today, it doesn't feel obvious, but at that time, I would say the vacancy rate was 50-60%.
yeah,
It was brutal going down there. There were streets that you thought you'd get murdered, and that now they're all renovated. You're like, oh, it's a no-brainer to have bought all this. And at the time, it was not a no-brainer.
Yeah, selection criteria was I had to feel comfortable driving down after dark with my wife to collect the rent. And if it didn't pass that test, then we didn't do the deal. Yeah, we didn't buy anything in Pittsburgh, Mechanicsville, Pine City.
There were a lot of neighborhoods that were tapped out. There were streets that were really, that looking back on it, we should have bought more. But there were only blocks we drive on. Like Allegheny, there was the block right by Cascade, which is really hot right now. I mean, every house was boarded up there.
Yeah, you quickly learned, there was no such thing as good neighborhood, bad neighborhood. It was street by street, really neighbor by neighbor, right? And we would look for, if you were in a quote-unquote bad area, but a vacant house still had the air conditioning unit, guess what? You were a really good neighbor nearby. So anyway, we continued to build that business. We hit a really lucky deal in 2011 and found a 250-unit apartment complex for $8,000 a door. That was in really good shape in Forest Park. $8,000. So $2 million for 250 apartments.
And it had just been rebuilt with HUD money, and they lost $14 million, I think, on the deal. It was brutal.
It was a lot. But we were the 8th person on the contract, and we eventually closed. But but that was another big game changer for us. Those were really the two. One was the credit union. The
Well,
second-
and we lost our equity at the 11th hour on that deal. Like he put up, it was like 200,000 earnest money. He put it up, and then changed his mind the next day. And he's like, and the earnest money was hard, so we're like, sorry.
Yeah, we had scrambled funds.
Find somebody, but the new investor gave us 10 times better deal than the old investor.
So anyway, eventually built that up to, we owned and managed about 450 apartments. We kept around 100 single families. By 2012, as you guys probably know, some of the institutional buyers had entered the game finally at this point, and those commercial brokers who were out of work now were able to get work again. It's not really a dig, but and so we couldn't buy anymore. So we had built up this crew of subcontractors and construction folks working on these houses. And we couldn't buy anything. So we said, okay, well, what the hell do we do with all these people that are just sitting around twiddling their thumbs? We started Strine Construction to go do third-party work. And the idea, not unlike what Mike and Matt had said, was we have an investor mentality, and we think that there are homeowners out there that would be interested in quality at a good value. So that was the start of Strine Construction and Management. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. 2015, 2016, we decided, okay, the market can't possibly go any higher than this, and sold most of the apartment buildings. So we sold that deal that we bought for $8 a door for $27 a door. Coincidentally, to put it in perspective.
Yeah, no, we're not that smart.
He didn't do anything to it and sold it again for $45 a door.
2 years later. 2 years later.
But something not worth crying over at all.
Well, there was another deal that we paid 45 for, sold it for 180, and then it sold for 1.2 2 years later with almost nothing.
So anyway, so we sold most of those in 15 and 16. Stan and I both had the same thought that, okay, this is feeling way too hot right now. So we want to try to stabilize our income. We still had the rentals. At this point, we had 16 or so employees that were pretty much running everything on day-to-day, whereas early on it was been our cell phones. And many of those residents still have our cell phones. But yeah, so 15, 16, we sold most of the stuff, and we wanted to grow the construction business and take the pool of money from the sale of those apartment buildings, as well as all the investors that had trusted us for years, and put their money to work to be able to wait for the next SL lending fund. So Sugarman, LeBlanc, SL lending fund, and we created our own hard money lender. So the guys that originally had lent us money invested with us again. They were getting tired of it, and we wanted to find the exact same types of deals. We stopped doing development flips and started looking just at cash flow investments. We had looked at affordable housing, larger development deals. I skipped a couple steps. We brought some commercial in there as well because Stan had experience with environmental remediation going back to our racetrack days. So we had, I guess at that point, went down to 140 or so units. And we had this fund producing income, and a construction company, and a couple of other commercial deals. If you guys have heard of the Academy Lofts or the Adair School in Adair Park, that's one of our projects, as well as a couple other retail deals. One Moreland, where Hodgepodge just opened their new location. We just found these little one-off deals that we thought were really compelling. But I was the deal guy. I was the creative problem solver deal guy. And so in 2016. We weren't buying deals. I really had nothing to do. Stan was running the lending fund, which was really his dream job.
Yeah, no, because I'm the day-to-day guy. Yeah, I'm nitty-gritty.
And I happened to be at this affordable housing competition called the ATL Challenge in late 2016, and they wanted a scalable solution to the affordable housing problem. And having been a public-private partner with the city of Atlanta over those years, and having grown a private enterprise, I felt very strongly that the answer to this problem needed to come from the private sector, and that the way to solve it would be something that everyone in this room is incredibly familiar with. It's you show private investors how they can make more money building affordable housing or developing affordable housing than they could otherwise make under a market rate scenario. Because if you could do that, surprise, everybody wants to make more money, and it would actually happen. So wrote a white paper outlining all of my experience and all of the inefficiencies in the market that I had seen over the course of my career, outlining a few. So, we as investors, I'm sure we all want to do energy efficiency improvements, but how far do you really take it knowing that the tenant is the one paying the bill, right? So do you change out all of those light bulbs from the 60-watt incandescent bulbs to the 7-watt LEDs, knowing that your tenant's going to pay the bill? The answer is no, most people don't. But if all of a sudden we started including utilities and we were able to create a profit margin on top of that, people would actually do it. Rent was always due on the first of the month. What day of the week does the first of the month fall on? Nobody knows, right? But we all expect our tenants to know. And so I started thinking about these things along with the subsidy programs that all pay you to build affordable housing based on percentage of cost. They'll have specific requirements, and then they'll pay you a percentage of cost. So what happens to the cost? Knowing that you're locked at 12 to 15% as your profit. It goes up, right? And so, surprise, surprise, affordable housing is really expensive to build. And so I took all this and developed it into a white paper, and the result was a company I created called PadSplit. And the idea was you take one unaffordable existing single-family home, you create a shared living experience to make it more affordable for more people and more profitable for owners. And we include all utilities, Wi-Fi, laundry, furnishings. We bill weekly or based on pay periods. And you can generate a tremendous amount more revenue out of the same property. And the owners are the ones that benefit. Some of them are in this room. And we started to see, once it started happening, people would repeat. And they would repeat again and again based on the model. And for me, as a real estate investor, it was important that once I started to see the power on the residents of the model and how much they were saving, on average, right now we have about 209 residents. They're saving an average of $516 every month. And you would see just like the impact of their lives. Somebody was in a Roach Motel off I-20 dodging drug dealers, whereas now they can live in a safe neighborhood and start saving $600 a month. Like, that was crazy. And so I didn't want to build it out as a traditional real estate development company the way that we had before, because I felt very strongly that I wanted to network with people like ourselves who already had product or were buying new product, because that's the way that you could scale around the region and across the country. So that's pretty much where we are today. And
Well, you have big plans for PadSplit.
oh, that's true. We're building out as a tech platform. We just got some venture capital funding, and the idea is to grow it across the country. And now we're building an opportunity zone fund to go build PadSplits across Atlanta, and always looking for new investors. And we're talking more about. That's my story. I don't know if Stan, if you have anything else to add about. I know I'm forgetting stuff about it.
I'm sure there are questions. Most of these people have been bored by us. Oh. One thing people don't tell you about owning apartments is, how many fires and cars did we have crash into buildings? It was, we had an APD police car go into one at 60 miles an hour. At least 3 cars, at least 3. And
2 in the same apartment.
yeah, 2 were in the same apartment.
That was on purpose.
No. But you learn, you want Geico as your insurance company when that happens, because they just mail you a check. They don't even ask questions.
Actually, I do have, before we move to questions, there's a great story coming out of that apartment deal. Boyfriend, girlfriend break up. Boyfriend gets kicked out of the apartment.
Yeah.
He still has a key to get back in. And
No, he carjacked her and the key was on the car. Carjacked her. They're the mom.
Anyway,
It was a carjacker.
so he gets back into the apartment. I guess he had given her a pair of shoes for Christmas or Valentine's Day or something. And he decides he's going to get her back. So he takes the shoes, he puts them on top of the sofa, and you ever do the hairspray lighter trick? Flamethrower thing? Yeah,
So he poured vodka on first.
So he lights the shoes on fire to give her peace of his mind, forgetting that sofas are highly flammable. So there's
And then he leaves the apartment and shuts the door.
yeah, they leave the apartment, shuts the door. Of course, we have the whole thing camera, and runs out, and we look outside our office window, which was in the apartment complex at the time, and smoke billowing out and destroyed 4 apartments. Fortunately, nobody was hurt.
Well, the nice thing is there was a Forest Park police officer literally gassing up his car, and he looks up and the window explodes. So he's calling for fire before even the smoke alarm could go off.
But yeah, so word to the wise: if you're gonna burn somebody's shoes, take them outside.
Well, I think the word to the wise, if you own apartments, have really good insurance. I think that's what you learn. You don't want the guy like on the back of the MARTA hat. You want like somebody highly rated that's gonna pay the bill.
Real quick, before we get to questions, which we'll do for about 10 minutes, if we could, you guys obviously have an incredible story about just how you built this massive Atticus empire. Could you guys each spend about 2 minutes? Because a lot of investors in the room, how many of you haven't done one real estate deal yet? That's a lot. So I'd really like to just spend 2 minutes each. What would you guys each say to the newer investors that are in this room that are looking for ways to get started? If you could each talk about that for about 2 minutes, then we could get to questions.
So the first thing I would say, and major thing, I've learned this over the course of my career, and certainly at Atticus as well. Don't be afraid for somebody stealing your idea. I mean, the reality is the vast majority of investors will empathize with you and help you out. And it's not nearly as competitive environment as most people think, and you're going to lose out on a lot of good, helpful advice if you don't seek out help from your peers. And the other thing is, it's a really small town. I mean, I started working on another deal with a developer that I first did consulting work with in 2003. He remembered me. And if you screw somebody over, or if somebody screws you over, like that reputation lasts for a long, long time. So certainly, work with each other, in the spirit, if you will, wherever possible. But in terms of, other advice I could give, customer discovery 101. Mike and Matt mentioned it earlier about understanding what your tenants want. I mean, if you build a quality product and you treat people with respect, you're much more likely to, that will pay dividends over time. In terms of doing your first deal, just jump in. I mean, do something small that you have control over wherever it is, with the fewest external dependencies possible. That has worked over and over for me. And if you are going to dive in, just start thinking longer term. Don't look at this as you want an IRR over a 1 to 2 or 3 year period. Assume that you're going to own this thing forever. That certainly changed our investment mentality completely. But when we were buying in 2008, 2009, there was no takeout market. There was no buyer. And from that sense, everything that we bought, with a very few exceptions that were opportunistic deals, since that point, were bought with the understanding that we may have to hold this asset forever, and it has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then you're going to be really upset when you end up stuck with it. And if you buy it assuming that you're going to be stuck with it forever, it's going to work out a lot better.
I like the idea of jumping into it, and I want to say, when you jump into your first deal and you're successful, think about why you're successful. And the thing about this business is it keeps you really humble. I mean, we have a couple of disaster deals that we don't talk about, but we basically worked for free for years during a crash, and we could have bought a lot of good deals. So there's a definite opportunity cost. So really stay humble and really always think about why you were successful and try and recreate that steps in your secret sauce. Really think about that. Because it's really easy to buy real estate. It's really hard to liquidate it.
Yeah, I think to build on that, like assets and liabilities, real estate can absolutely be a liability, and don't forget that part. That's pretty important.
You guys have questions?
guys did a great job talking about pad split, what it is, being someone who's touched it a little bit more. Could you talk about like the yield and how it really driven up by going the pad split routes? I think talking to a bunch of investors here, it's a really important thing.
Sure.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick, the unit economics are probably the easiest way to explain. So you take a 4-bedroom house, Southwest Atlanta. It's going to rent for around $1,200 a month. We show you how to capture that existing space. This is so Bombshell. There's enough residential space in Atlanta to completely solve the affordable housing problem in about 4%, using just 4% of these existing space. Like that's how much we have now in Sugarman. But so you take that house. It's a 4-bedroom. You have a dining room and a breakfast nook, or a living room and a dining room. We can show you pretty easily how you can take that 4-bedroom house and get 6 bedrooms out of it, and it still be comfortable. We need about 300 square feet per bedroom. So you were going to rent that house for call it $1,200 a month. We'll bill it. Our average right now is $590. Let's just call it $550 for easy math per room per month, inclusive of utilities, Wi-Fi, laundry, furnishings, and 6 rooms, $550 a month. That's $3,300. So you went from top line $1,200 to top line $3,300. Pad split works not dissimilar from Airbnb. We take a 12% fee off the top. We manage all of the utilities payments. We also monitor the usage. We handle all of the resident side of that equation. So the generation, payments processing, collections, move-ins, move-outs, etc. And after you pay the utilities, our fee, and repairs and maintenance, that accounts for about $1,000 of that staff. So you're at $2,300 net income compared to $1,200 gross the old way. Assuming, like across our portfolio, we spend around $200 a month once you account for capital costs over time and repairs and maintenance, because you've got to replace the water heater, replace the roof every couple of years, etc. You're at about $1,000. So $2,300 net, $1,000 net. At that point, we have 2 options. One, you use this just as Airbnb if you have your own management company, and that's it. That's all we do. You get $2,300 net, and you figure out the rest. We'll send the maintenance calls to you. Most of our owners choose the joint venture model, where we actually sign a lease with you, and that first tranche goes to pay all those costs. So we're at our $2,300 net. The second tranche goes to pay your market rent. So in this case, $1,200, except you've also invested in the property to bring it up to our standard, because you want to create those 2 bedrooms, you want to do the energy efficiency improvements. So let's say you spent $15,000. So we'll pay you a kicker now of an extra $200. So you're now at $1,400 net compared to $1,000 the old way, and we still have $900 left over. So of that $900, $450 goes back to the owner. So you're now at $1,850 net compared to $1,000 the old way, and you don't do anything. You retire to Tahiti, and we take that other half and use it to pay guys like Matt and Mike, and we oversee the entire maintenance process as well, so that we can be scalable, operate from our base here in Atlanta, and operate pretty much anywhere in the country with boots on the ground from other property management servicers around. And the sales prop was pretty easy. It was, you make more money, you do less work, and you do something good. And that's what we thought would resonate.
Is there a website?
Padsplit.com.
Can you spell that?
PADSPLIT. Our sales person right now, if you want to take down her email, is Eva, EVA, at padsplit.com. And I have some cards too if anybody wants to talk. Yes.
So I've never met Atticus until just now. I actually didn't know he was part of Pad Split. We've been working with Frank. We have a duplex in Decatur, and it was an 8-bedroom, 4-bath apartment, and they converted, we had 2 living rooms on each side, and they converted one of the living rooms into a bedroom, so now it's a 10-4. And it's been great working with them. I mean, everything he says is honest to goodness true. We're getting more money now than we did, renting it out traditionally, so I'll definitely vouch for them for sure.
Hey,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Oh, could you talk a little bit about what your multi-family apartments are? Are they just in Atlanta? You have something out of state, and if in Atlanta,
There's a good story there.
what
Yeah,
locations? what
so
locations are we
so we
talking
were in Metro Atlanta and then Macon. And we, so what saved us is we bought really well. What nobody tells you about Class C apartments is how hard the tenants are on the places and how often they move in Atlanta. Your turnover, we had one complex, I think we figured out we were almost a 350% turnover rate on a yearly basis. So, I mean, your burnout rate on appliances, carpet was just incredible. I mean, we didn't make any money on that deal. And where we made the money on the portfolio was by buying it right and then selling it, in the cycle. So it was, it was luck.
Stay local. Like, absolutely stay local. I mean, that was a big lesson from the crash. That deal that we bought, when we bought it, the previous owner was losing $25,000 every month. The first month that we owned it, we made $18,000. Like,
We just cut expenses to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean,
there was no rocket science.
you just you keep your eye on the ball, and really hard to do that if you're out of state dealing with a cash flowing investment. Unless the only reason it worked at all in Macon was we had a property manager that we trusted that was also invested in the deal. So every other place, like, close enough that you can see it.
I know you mentioned that managing a small apartment complex like 10 to 15, 20 units is extremely difficult and full-time business.
Yep.
Do you think there could be a strategy to buy, say, a 20-unit apartment complex that's all 2-bedroom units and then put all of them on pad split?
Yeah, so you can convert. The market issue with pad split is, so any piece of property, your first bedroom is the most valuable, right? Your second bedroom is worth a little less. Your third bedroom is worth a little less. Your fourth bedroom is worth less. So in a single family standpoint, like, that tipping point comes around 5 or 6. We always try to get to 6 because what's your 6th bedroom worth in a market rate scenario? There's nothing, right? There's nothing there. Even your 5th bedroom is almost worthless. In an apartment scenario, 2 bedrooms is still, there's still some value there. So could we take it from 2 to 3? Yeah, you can do that, and you can get a little margin there. The bigger push is from 3 to 4. So in an apartment scenario, to go from 3 to 4 is a big jump. Just like in single family, from 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 are the really big jumps. But yeah, you could absolutely do that. You would just have to run the numbers and see, depending on where it is and whether that incremental bedroom made sense. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you guys were using hard money during the crash. Were you guys refinancing it with the traditional loans?
Yes.
With a credit union.
Yeah, we were.
It was a portfolio loan. It was 10-year note. I think we started at 6.5%, and they actually cut us down to 5.5, and it was. I think if we were just lucky. Yeah, I think we were just a good borrower. They were looking for good borrowers to.
Yeah, I mean, tell the truth, do what you say you're going to do, and like over time, people will start to see a pattern.
Were they in new banks? Did they not
No.
have a round portfolio?
No, well, it was a credit union.
So they were limited. They're limited to 15% of their portfolio.
Yeah, the other big thing was that was right around the time they changed all the appraisal laws. So even if you had a traditional bank that had money to lend, the appraisers didn't know what the hell they were doing because they were working. The bankers had to go bringing out the 3 different appraisers. 9 times out of 10, they were either out of state or just didn't know anything. Whereas the credit union didn't fall under the same rules, so they could have they used their same appraiser who knew more of the neighborhoods and they had a relationship. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How do you guys deal with density ordinances?
Density ordinances?
Yeah.
So for pad split, you mean?
Yeah.
So I think what you're asking is there are some ordinances on the books zoning-wise that limit the number of unrelated parties
That's right.
in each house.
Yes.
So the way that the state of Georgia defines a person is inclusive of a corporation. So what we do is we create an LLC for each house, and the residents become member owners of that LLC. So by the letter of the law, we only ever have one person in your house. That's the LLC. How do they invest? So we don't have leases, we have operating agreements. And they actually sign addenda to the operating agreements, and they become non-capital producing members of that LLC.
Have you had any problems with this?
Not yet. Go ahead, Sharon.
You had a model earlier on where you would do the rehab and then split the cost with the owner. Why did you decide not to do that?
So we didn't even split it. We early on, and actually, so Pat split rents some houses from Stryan, and that was as much because Stan didn't want to put up the money, so somebody had to. But we.
Got thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, we. So what we used to do, I mean, where we thought the value proposition would be easiest would be no vacancy, no turn cost. We'll sign a 5-year deal with you, and you don't have to do a thing. The problem with that was you can absolutely expand that way, no question. There are other co-living companies around the country that operate on the higher end. They do exactly that, right? They'll go into your property, sign a 5-year lease, they'll put in all the money and move forward. The reason why we didn't want to do that was twofold. Number one, it left us capital constrained. So then you had to go raise a ton of money to go run that model, which we could do now. But the other thing that we noticed in doing the profit share model, where we actually showed investors how they could make, in addition to no vacancy, no turn cost, considerably more cash flow, was those owners became much more bought into the model. And they were paying attention, they cared about the quality of the product much more, and they were willing to repeat. Whereas the owners who were just kind of, fire and forget 5-year lease, they didn't really care, right? We were just another tenant to them, and they weren't making any more money in their mind. And so from our standpoint, we wanted owners that had bought in and that were investors and that were going to go repeat over and over and over again.
I think you had mentioned something along the lines of like, normally people's rent is due on the 1st of the month, and that's the day that's going to fall on, that you would work with tenants to do like payday scheduled payments.
Yeah, so we did and we saw this with the apartments, where somebody would pay their cable bill or their light bill before they paid their rent.
Yeah.
Why? Because, well, number one, cable is the most important utility in any tenant around, right? And number two, because that was the person who was calling, right? And they weren't thinking, oh well, what is the 1st of May? Like next when? I mean, like it's a week away. I still have a hard time thinking about what day that is. And the reality is nobody knew. Nobody knew. So
Most people are paid Friday, so they're trying to align the pay. You pay your rent when you get your check.
yeah,
That's
so,
what they set you up when you move.
so you take the exact same person and you take away their option to pay their cable bill because we're already paying it, and you match that the due date to the pay period. Lo and behold, that exact same person is much more likely to pay because it's just so much simpler.
So
It's like your employer signing you up for a 401k. You're going to save for retirement. He's forcing them to pay on payday, so it comes out of their bank.
One of the issues I'm running into with the lower income tenants, which is who you're targeting with this, is they want to pay cash. Like they may not even have a bank account. Like that. How are you?
So early on, that was an issue. That was one of the first challenges to get over. Was number one, we're now not collecting one payment every month. We're collecting 20 to 40 payments every month. And number two, how do you deal with unbanked and underbanked populations? And so when I first ran into this in 2009, we had one of these kind of pre-prototype houses in 2009. That we had exactly that problem. We had to go pick up the rent. So when we started Pad Split, we knew it had to be electronic. So there were two things that we did. One, the technology had come a long way over that time. So PayPal Cash, Pay Near Me allow those same tenants to go to a retail location like CVS, Family Dollar, etc., hand them cash, and they can remit it electronically to their account. The other thing that changed, even more importantly, was now most of those same people have prepaid debit cards. So almost all of we don't have tenants, we have members. but almost all of them have prepaid debit cards if they're unbanked or underbanked, and they can remit electronically. So all of our payments are remitted electronically now. Yes, ma'am.
What was your strategy on finding tenants? And how did you deal with any vacancy problems?
Early on?
Yeah.
Section 8.
Yeah, so we try every strategy, Craigslist, yard signs, go Section 8 before that, go Section 8, then Georgia Housing Search jumped in. But our biggest source of good tenants was tenant referrals. Once we had 30 or 40 tenants, they found somebody to lease our places. I'd say still to this day, 50% of our vacancies are filled by tenant referrals.
But yeah, so there's 3 issues to deal with, like property management 101. Okay, you have collect the rent, you have property maintenance issues, and then you have what I'll call social issues, disputes, neighbor complaints, anything like that. Well, in single family, as opposed to multifamily, you don't deal nearly as much with the neighbor complaints, almost to a negative degree, because you want to be getting a lot of those neighbor complaints, or at least you want to be getting a lot more than you do. But when we started and we knew we wanted to create a business that could replace our income, we decided, okay, if we use these federally guaranteed dollars, then we don't have to worry as much about the rent collection piece, and we can effectively build a glorified maintenance company. And that's what we did early on. We still to this day don't have a ton of private pay.
We have more than you think. We have a lot of users now. It's the West End.
Well, I'd say low income private pay.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, certainly we do a pad split, and that's just like constant. But we run through a full screening process, employment verification, background check, and then we do a personal screen with them as well.
But controlling, I would say the biggest thing that put money in our pocket was getting turnover to 0.
Yeah.
We, unless the tenant was somebody we wanted to fire, we did everything we could do to keep.
Yeah, that's a big one. I would not focus so much on raising rents as much as keeping your tenants. Okay.
What are y'all seeing from actual social conflict standpoint, having a bunch of people in one dwelling with your kind of common hallways right outside their bedrooms versus just running single family or apartments?
Yeah, so I mean we do run into issues. I will say it's a much less frequent than people think.
A lot less than apartments do.
Yeah. Actually, that I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it's less than apartments. Wow. It's super interesting. I mean, the example I give is like I'm not a naturally clean person, but when I go stay at my in-laws' house, I'm very conscientious, right? And so what I found is when you put people with a group of strangers, depending on how many you have, and I think that sweet spot is 6 to 8, then you have these like natural social norms that develop. And I think we just have things ingrained in us as humans that are like, don't want to rock the boat to some extent. So the kitchens and bathrooms and dining areas tend to stay cleaner than they would ordinarily. And like, if we walked into any one of our houses, we could go to the worst pad split house.
It'd be better than ours.
And then go to like a random tenant occupied house. Yeah, it's going to be way better. Yes, sir.
So you just get done making your espresso in your boxers, and you got $20,000 in your savings account and a $70,000 line of credit.
Yep.
And you jump on your computer, and instead of seeing all the kind of curiously crazy quote-unquote deals that you saw before, you see what's in this 2019 market. What do? You're out of a job.
Good question. I haven't thought about that. Yeah. So the question was, if I go back to my 2007 boxer short self, and I don't see all of the deals that are available, instead I'm in 2019 and I see the same thing. What do I do?
We're still seeing deals. We're just seeing it. It's more like fishing. Like, I mean, I made an offer on one of Vince's deals today, so I lowballed them apparently. But so they're deals though. I mean, I could make the numbers work in his number.
The truth be told, the boxer short film was in 2005, not 2007. But yeah, I mean, I think some of it is discretion is the better part of valor right now. Again, we thought the peak was in 2015 and 16. And I would just make sure that all your deals pencil, right? I mean, you underwrite in the same way. It's not a tsunami of deals right now. I don't think I have to tell anybody that.
Well, but the difference was the difference was in 2007, 8, 9, 10, there was no cash. Like, yeah, there was zero. Oh, you guys, I mean, the stress we had, and it was more me, is every time we raised money, it was gone within 30 days. I mean, there was one time I got 800,000. I was so proud of myself. It was gone in 30 days, and I was like, oh shit, now I gotta do it.
Yeah, I think the philosophy doesn't really change. Certainly the deals change, but the philosophy is still, I have to assume I'm going to hold this thing, right? And that's exactly why I'm back in affordable housing at the height of the market. Because what am I confident? What's the one thing that's not going away, right? You have this overwhelming demand that's virtually inelastic for more affordable units. So, I mean, you ask a question like, that's what I'm doing, right? You know, finding where I feel like those external dependencies are irrelevant, and you know where I can make money housing a population that is always going to exist. That's what I do. Thanks.
One last question.
There's a guy in the back.
Who has an ask? Go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned a couple funds that you started. So when you were starting those funds, did you reach out to like a securities attorney, or what was the legal process?
So fund may be generous. I mean, Atlanta Housing Fund had $98,000 between 5 investors, and DPLA was friends and family, maybe 200 grand. So no, there was no securities documents. I mean now, like the Opportunity Zone Fund, yeah, you go pay 20 grand to a securities attorney. But back then, no, I mean they were tiny. We were talking to people that you knew, and it was just who wants to be part of this LLC, here's how it's going to work. Here's the operating agreement that's on a couple of pages. But that was it. You get people who trust you, and you try to get their, earn their trust.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.